Hi, and welcome to Dip In and Out with Lucy, the podcast that opens up the discussion around domestic abuse. I'm very fortunate this morning to be sitting down with Nick Gazzard. Nick is an incredible individual who has not only set up the Hollie Gazzard Trust, but has also set up the Hollie Gazzard app, which many people will be aware of. Those that don't must be living under a rock because it's absolutely everywhere, and quite rightly so. So I think it's best to hand over to Nick and he can explain a bit more about the history and why he set up the trust and the app. So good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Lucy. Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
So let me take you back 10 years, actually. Back in 2013, my daughter Hollie, she got into a relationship with someone which was unhealthy. And she didn't know at the time, but he'd had previous partners who he had abused. He had a history of abuse with his mum. And this all culminated in February 2014, when Hollie finally managed to end that relationship with him. And the previous 12 months, she went through domestic abuse and stalking and sexual harassment. And in ending that relationship with him on the Friday evening, which was the 14th of February, 3 days later, he walked into the salon where Hollie worked as a hairdresser, and he stabbed her to death. As you can probably imagine, that's a huge shock to me, to Hollie's mum and her sister, and really to lots of other people in the community, Hollie's friends, her colleagues in the salon who were there at the time, family. The ripple effect was massive. Yeah. And it's something you don't expect.
No.
We weren't aware of what was happening to Hollie, because a lot of what happened to her was very subtle. You know, she wasn't living with us for the vast majority of that time. She was living in London, trying to create her career. She was only 20 years of age when she died, and it just rocked us as a family. And people asked me to try and explain what it's like, and the only way I can explain it is that it turns your world upside down, back to front and inside out, and you really don't know where you are. But Hollie was a really vivacious individual. She had a large circle of friends. You know, she was very social. She was on social media. You know, at that time it was only Facebook and Instagram, but she loved the social side of life. And at that time, I thought, well, I just can't let Hollie go, because she had a big impact on a variety of people that she touched during the 20 years of her life. And I said, well, how can I continue that? And also, how can I prevent what happened to Hollie happening to other people, and prevent parents going through what we're starting to go through as a family? So within about a week to 2 weeks, I was thinking about this, and I'm a very positive person generally, and I thought, well, let me start by maybe setting up a charity, and if I can help one person, that would be fantastic. So that was our aim at the time, and I had some help from my colleagues. I worked in financial services and the company, and they employed some solicitors to help me, and we created the Hollie Gazzard Trust. And the trust was created on the 24th of April, so only a couple of months after he was killed, and which is quite an achievement, I understand. And our aim at that time really was just to help one person. 10 years down the line, I never imagined it would be this big. I never imagined that it would be consuming my whole life, really. And I'm so passionate about what I do now in terms of trying to help other people, either prevent these things happening, educate young people, or actually maybe giving some of my own advice on what I've been through to other parents. And it's just grown and grown and grown. And this year is our 10th anniversary. Next month, Hollie would have been killed 10 years ago. And that's flown by. I can absolutely say that it's flown by. But on the other hand, it seemed a lifetime ago Hollie was killed. Very, 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 very strange feeling. And was just starting to sort of build up now to her anniversary. So it's all about, for me, making a difference. It's all about trying to help prevent these things happening in the future, whilst remembering Hollie and using Hollie's story to get that message across. And one of the things that I hope happens, which I think is happening, is that if I can talk about it as someone who's lost a daughter, then perhaps other people can talk about it as well. And we're trying to raise the profile of these issues, bring them above the table so that they become everyday language to people, and we start to get to the bottom of why this is happening, and hopefully eradicate this going forward and change that culture. That's a dream.
Well,
but if we don't start our dreams, then we never get there. So we started the process 10 years ago, and we know lots of other people who have done this as well and work in this field, and we're just trying to make a difference, really.
I mean, incredible to think it. Not only, I have children myself, and I can't even begin to say how I would feel in that situation, and to then be able to turn that into something that is helping other people, to me, is just incredible. Isn't even the word. I can't even think of the word, and I'm normally quite a wordsmith, but it's phenomenal, basically, what you've done. And 10 years, to do all that, and so soon after, she was murdered. It's unbelievable that you've been able to do that. And you said something then that really struck with me, and it's 100% true, is bringing it above the table, because these are the conversations, the subtlety of the abuse that she endured during the relationship, all the things that were going on that happens in domestic abuse relationships, but to the rest of the world just seems like they might have had a spat, or he's in a bad mood, or she, or whatever it is. And actually it's a lot deeper than that, and a lot more sinister than that. And it's only by raising the awareness that we'll ever get it above the table, because so many conversations, you use the word abuse or domestic abuse, and people sort of just want to turn a blind eye, or don't want to know because they don't think it affects them.
Absolutely. And I think when you talk to people are very reticent to talk about it. They find it very uncomfortable to talk about it. And that's where if I can get that across, that I can talk about it, can I make other people more comfortable talking about it? Because it's not something that happens infrequently. We know from the statistics of the people that are directly affected, I would bet your bottom dollar that everyone that you come across would have been affected in some way, either directly or indirectly, by domestic violence or domestic abuse. So it is something which we need to talk about. It is something which we need to bring above that table and put it into our everyday language. And hopefully by me talking about it, I can encourage other people. And as a trust, we have three main aims. The first of those is to raise awareness, because I think that's incredibly important, because if we don't raise the awareness, then we don't make it mainstream to talk about, both with, adults, but also with younger people who may be starting to go through this. And if we can talk about it, then we can give the information about, what to look out for, what is happening, how to extract yourself from a relationship. So that moves into the second area then, which is providing education to everybody. We do a lot of work in schools, colleges, universities, businesses, and other community groups. And we did a little bit of the tally last week. Over the last 5 years, we have trained over 15,000 people.
Wow.
Across those various areas. So that's probably 15,000 people that may well have never come across this area. But there's so many more, and we've got so much more to do. But if we can bring it above the table, make it, second nature, everyday language, then hopefully we will start to see these incidents reduce.
Absolutely. That, and I do often say, and I think I even put it on our website, about it being not just directly, but indirectly as well. And this is where, you were talking before about Hollie's colleagues, the impact on them sort of working with her every day, because very often the people that we work with every day, we see more than our own families. You know, you're in work from morning till evening, and you know, for them to sort of have to maybe question, like, how come I didn't see that, or I didn't notice, you know, what he was doing, and I didn't pick up on maybe if she was agitated when she came into work that day, or upset. And it's not that anybody is to blame in that respect, but if we're all a bit more informed, and we all have that little bit more of a, there's something here that just doesn't sit right with me, and I have that information to hand. And there's no harm in asking the question. And if somebody doesn't want to talk to you, that's fair enough. But you never know in that moment, if they do open up to you, that you just listen to what they're saying and be that kind of support. And I think another big thing is knowing that these support services are out there. You know, I'm constantly trying to, and I hope it's all right, because I've got Hollie Gazzard app on my resources page, because I just want as many people to know that these resources are out there and there is help. Because when I've worked myself with victims in the past, very often they feel that when they've gone to look for support, it's the most daunting, scary thing you will ever do, because you're actually getting to a point where you're admitting to yourself there is something very, very wrong. And very often in abusive relationships, the victim or survivor will tell themselves, well, actually, it wasn't that bad, or they'd never hit me, so it wasn't really abuse. And all the things that become your normal day-to-day life, unfortunately, it is abuse. You know, somebody calling you names, that's not just that because that person, oh, it's just the way they are. No, it's not. You know, that's verbal abuse. That's somebody using and exerting their power and control over you to belittle you, to put you down. And unfortunately, you know, very often the bad stuff is easier to believe. And a lot of the time, especially younger people, are so impressionable. And you're right, it needs to be from the ground up. And I sometimes talk about, maybe I had a podcast recently, we're talking about children and, you know, maybe year 6 having some understanding. Now people go, year 6, they have sex education in year 6. So if they had some kind of age appropriate conversation around what isn't acceptable from somebody else, you know, then that's something that really needs to be looked at, because young people are impressionable. And in this day and age, like you say, when Hollie was younger and when she was alive, it was maybe just Facebook, and now we've got Instagram, now there's TikTok. I couldn't even tell you them all, actually, because there's probably so many now, and I'm not very good with all that. But there are so many and so many things that children are seeing, and the self-worth and self-esteem is just constantly being eroded by what they're seeing as being perfection, or, you know, certain behavior displayed by people thinking, oh, well, that's normal, that's, you know, and that gets likes, and that gets this, and that gets that. It's a really sad world we live in, and we need to counteract that with the things that you're doing and with the things that, you know, support services are doing to be out there. And so would you explain a bit about what the app actually entails? I think that would be a good one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The app relates to our third aim as a trust, and that is the prevention side of things, so prevent these things happening. Whilst we can use the other two to help that, Hollie Gazzard is our personal safety app that we issue, and we issue the basic app free of charge, although it costs us about £50,000 a year to run. With that, so we're going to do some crowdfunding next month as well to try and help, because we don't get any statutory funding. We have to raise all the money ourselves for what we do. So Hollie Gazzard is our personal safety app. It's free to use, the basic version. We have another Hollie Gazzard Extra, which means that your alerts will be sent to a police-approved 24/7 monitoring centre, which is all manned, and they take on average about 8 to 10 seconds to respond. Wow. And that's for those people that don't want to involve other people. We know domestic abuse, you know, you don't want to tell your neighbours, your friends, your relatives, but you need to tell someone to help you. If you have Hollie Gazzard Extra, there's that person at the end of the phone who can instantly deal with any issues that come up. So that's where Hollie Gazzard Extra come in. So lots of victims of crime use this. We've got nine partnerships with 9 police forces. Other police forces recommend it as well, but Hollie Gazzard Extra is really where you need that little bit extra monitoring and control, rather than just a friend at the end of the phone, or a relative. It's for those areas whereby you really need someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the beginning then. So Hollie Guard is our personal safety app. You can download it by just searching it on either the App Store or Google. So it relates to both iPhones and Android. Once you've downloaded it, all you do is set up an account, and that account is kept in the cloud. And that's really important, and I'll explain why in a minute. And then you just create your account by adding a few details, and then you're up and away. And basically what Hollie Guard does is, and it's best, if I give you an example, if I was leaving even the office that I'm in now, say at night and it's dark and not many people around, all I do is click on the app and the app runs in the background. And if I get into trouble and I want my emergency contacts who I've set up to know that I'm in trouble, all I do is shake the phone, or I can hold a tile icon down on the phone and it will send an alert to that person. They can click into the link and they can see and hear what's happening, because the phone will automatically starts to record voice and video. And if it was a Hollie Guard Extra, it would go to the 24/7, who would look at that evidence and decide what to do. It might be to call the local police, and they've got all the numbers for the local police offices, or an ambulance even, maybe.
Yeah.
But if you've got just the basic Hollie Guard, then it'll be a friend or relative that would answer the call and look at this. So they can decide what to do by looking at that information. It might be to come and meet you, it might be to phone you to see if everything's all right. Hollie Guard also has a number of other functions. So there's a journey function whereby you can put the beginning and the end of the journey and what time you want to get to that end of journey by. So once you click save, it sends that journey to your emergency contacts, so they can see where you are along that journey and how you're progressing. And if you don't reach the end of the journey by the time you've stated, it will automatically send the alert to say you might be in trouble.
Wow.
There's a meetings features which allows you to have a countdown timer. So if you go into an area or someone that you didn't know, and a lot of people use this as lone workers, who go out and see people in areas and maybe on their own. So if you don't come out of the meeting by the prescribed time, then again, it will automatically send the alert. As soon as you pull up the map, also, we've worked with some of the bids around the country to get some safe spaces on there. So you will see some safe spaces in your area. It may be a pub that's got Ask for Angela or Ask for Clive, or it might be a license in Savvy authority. So there are all sorts of things in there which could direct you to that place of safety. It's got a report feature whereby you can start to create reports, because we know, if you're being abused, 30-odd incidents go by before you report it to the police, and all that evidence is lost. Well, if you are being abused, you could use the report function to create a report. Just click on the icon, write and type in what it is. You can take pictures and you just click save. It date stamps it, it geotags it, and it sends it to your account in the cloud, and it's held there. And if the police, if you do report it to the police can come to us and ask for that evidence, and we'll provide it to the police. And we are helping with a lot of court cases at the moment. So hopefully Hollie Guard can help improve those conviction rates that are very low. There's lots of other things in there which will help out. You can mask the app. You can change the color of the app. There's all sorts of things in there, but it's a real personal safety app all in one, which can just sit on your phone.
It's just, it's incredible, and it's something that is so needed. And everything you've just said, from whether it's, escalating it to police level, whether it's a family friend, whoever you nominate, and the idea as well that, and this gets lost so many times, like you say, if you're working with a lot of kind of court cases, you'll know, as you just said, is many times people don't report things for many reasons. It could be from the perpetrator saying, I'll kill myself if you do that, or no one will believe you, or, I'll never do it again. All the things that we know are kind of textbook script from a perpetrator. And it will take a long time. And there's no shame in it taking time to recognize and realize what you're experiencing. But in the meantime, all that priceless evidence and information is lost. And then very often with perpetrators, it turns into a he said, she said scenario, or she said, he said, whichever way around it is, it will come to that point where, unfortunately, perpetrators are very cunning, and a lot of the time they will have an answer for things. And that's why many, many times victims might feel like they're losing their mind, because at the end of the day, the perpetrator has a perfectly logical reason for why something happened, because nobody was there. But having that opportunity and that chance to record things. And so if somebody wanted to record, say, like report or write, do they have to do it themselves, or can they again sort of nominate? It could be a family friend who may be just a bit more kind of in that situation when it's happened and it's an incident, and sometimes lots of things are going around your head. They don't have to themselves be the one to fill it in, do they? Because again, that can be quite traumatic.
As long as it's done on their account,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. And the beauty about this is it all stores it in the cloud. And when the police come to us, we just give the police all the data. We don't have to involve the person again, so they don't get secondary traumatized by having to go through everything. It's just passed over to the police. And the other thing about Hollie Gazzard is that all of that evidence, all of the data is not held on the phone. So if a perpetrator got hold of the phone and started to go through it and got into Hollie Gazzard, they can't see anything. There's nothing there. Also, if you change phones, or you lose your phone, or the phone's stolen or damaged, you just log into your account, and again, it's all back there for you. So, it's a great tool, and we've got over 500,000 people now who downloaded Hollie Gazzard, and quite a few that have downloaded the Hollie Gazzard Extra and pay for the advanced version. But it's helping people, and that's all we wanted to do, and we set out to do, was to help people prevent these things happening.
And what an absolute amazing legacy that you have created in 10 years, like you say, in some respects it will have flown by, and in other respects it's like time stood still. And to be able to know that none of it happened kind of in vain, as people would say, that she, would be so proud of what you're doing. It's absolutely incredible to know all the people that are being helped. And again, 10 years ago, when we talk now, I did an episode with Mark Brooks from Mankind Initiative, saying, the way things are very, very slowly progressing when we talk about abuse. It is further on than we were, say, 10 years ago, but it's still not good enough in my mind. And and as you say as well, there's so much more to do, and so many more people to reach out to and get organisations involved, get them to understand the importance, that the public understand the importance of having these apps, such as Hollie Gazzard, to be able to know that it's there as a safety as well, isn't it? Even if you don't necessarily have to use it at that point in time, it might be months, it might be years down the line, but knowing that that's there, and that's so often for victims is such a difficult thing to explain to, kind of Joe Bloggs down the street, is that it is that constant feeling of unease that you can't explain to people, especially when you're not aware that what you're experiencing is abuse. There's just that constant niggling in the back of your mind that something isn't right. But like many of us do with a lot of things in life, we bury it, we carry on, we go through day by day. And it's just so amazing to know that who may end up using that in the future that didn't know they needed it, but it's there. And with technology progressing as much as it is, to know that you can use it and there won't be any kind of evidence there for a lot of the time as well. People find it strange when you say, well, they still live with the perpetrator. Oh, well, why? Because it ain't that easy. It's not that straightforward.
Yeah. We are seeing a change. It's a slow change, but you're talking about changing culture, and culture takes time to change. But I always say, well, if you don't start, then you will never get there. We started, and with all the people that work in this field putting the pressure on, governments and other areas, and providing tools and support, we're starting to make a bit of a sea shift and starting to move there. It will take time. People ask me, what's your ambition for the trust? And I just have one ambition, that we didn't exist.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't exist, then there won't be a problem. I will say, I love the day when I can hang up my boots and say, that's me done. We don't have a problem anymore.
Absolutely.
But that's a long way off yet. But
it
we all have
is.
to keep fighting, keep doing it. putting pressure on the government to change the laws. The laws have been changed. If you look back 10 years, Clare's Law came in the month after Hollie was killed. Coercive control became a crime. Non-fatal strangulation and all those other domestic abuse act remedies that came out. We have moved a long way over the last 10 years, but we've still got a huge way to go. But we just got to keep banging away and keep going and keep driving it forward for these victims and survivors of domestic abuse, because personally I think once you're a victim of domestic abuse and you survive, you're always a survivor. It will never leave you. Because that will be there for the rest of your life. And I don't think a lot of people who have been impacted by abuse understand that and can comprehend it.
That's again, I feel like we're just one and the same person in this, because again, something else I frequently say, and when I'm writing blogs, is you're not recovering from a cold. This isn't kind of oh, well, they'll be all right in a few weeks, few months, few years. No, it stays with you forever. And it doesn't just stay with the victims and survivors. It stays with their family. It stays with their friends. All the questions they're asking themselves, the what ifs, the whys. And the only way I could ever describe it is to say it's a process, and it's a daily process. And there will be good days where you're feeling like you're flying and you're on top of the world. And there will be days where you feel like you're being pulled back. And that's okay. And that's what I will regularly say is it's okay. That is normal. But to say that people will kind of move on, and I will always say move forward, not move on. You can move forward slowly, day by day, one step at a time.
Yeah, people say, time's a healer, and you want closure. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Well, not according to me, it doesn't happen. You just have to learn to live with it, and live with it in a different way. Live your life a different way. And like you say, there are times when I'm thinking, I don't want to get out of bed. And there are times when you think, oh, I can't do this anymore, but you just have to keep going, because every day is a new day. And every day is a struggle, but you just have to try and keep your mind on the positives and on remembering the feedback. And this is what keeps me going, is the feedback that you get from people who say, I listened to Hollie's story and that helped me. I've used Hollie Garden, saved my life. All those positive feedback that you get from individuals, that gives you that warm feeling in your stomach. And you think, yeah, whilst it's hard for me, reliving it every day when I have to talk about it, it's much, much harder for those people that are going through it at the moment. So, if I can just put one foot in front of the other and keep going, keep driving through, and the more those positive feedback come in, and that gives you that extra strength then to keep doing what you're doing, that's how I survive.
Well, you're a complete inspiration. I'm not going to lie, you are, because, so many people, like I said at the start, would not even consider doing what you've done and making the difference you've made. And I think the more people can watch things like this, see what you're doing, and know that actually it is okay to have those days, but it's also okay to achieve things. You are allowed to achieve things in the future. You are allowed to make a difference. You are allowed to make things better. Out of sheer and utter hell. If we all stay in the hell part, then unfortunately there will be no kind of bright light at the end of the tunnel, and we need that, and we need people like you doing what you're doing to give people hope, and the one thing I did when I started the website and I started the podcast, I thought it's about giving hope. It's about saying this isn't the end. This isn't it. Your life can progress, and you can do things that you never thought were imaginable, and you probably never thought you'd have to do, but you can actually make a difference. And if we all kind of thought that way a bit more, and we all understood that it does affect every single one of us in one way or another, then we're maybe slowly getting to that point, like you say, where we're not needed anymore.
No, absolutely. And I always try and think in my mind, is that what would Hollie do? And I know what she would do. She was that spunky person. She was happy-go-lucky. And she would get out and she'd do it. She'd get out and do it. And I say, she would sit on my shoulder and say, Dad, get on with it. Well, do it. So I always think back at her and say, what would she do? And I know what she would do. She would say, get out there, Dad, and do it.
Wow. Well, I don't think I can say anything else to top what Hollie said, because I think she's quite right. 100% you're doing it, and you're doing an amazing job. And obviously 10th anniversary, there's lots of things coming up, aren't there? Lots of,
Yes.
I think, because obviously on the website you'll be able to find things, but obviously on the Hollie Guard Trust, be able to find things there as well, where all the different events that are coming up throughout the year. And as you say, it's the 10th anniversary, so it's a big year this year.
Yeah, it's one that we're not celebrating, we're commemorating.
Yeah.
But we've got lots of events planned to all different sectors of the community, because it's a big community thing, and I think this is a community issue, and we can solve it as a community. So we'll put lots of events on for the community. We've got a bystander intervention conference that we're running in July at Hartpury University. So I think that may be one of the first ones in the country. So we've got some great academic speakers, some business speakers, and some educational speakers. So that will be great, and I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, we've got lots of different things happening, but it's about celebrating Hollie. It's about remembering all those other people that have been directly or indirectly impacted by domestic abuse or stalking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very, very grateful to you for taking the time, because I know how busy you are. And I just think that the more we have these conversations, the more likelihood is that those barriers about talking about domestic abuse will break down. And it should be a conversation everybody is part of. Absolutely. Oh,
No,
thank you
definitely.
so much, Nick. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Take care. Thank you.
When you look at me, what do you see?